What's up guys, this is For the Desk Gaming, your channel for fresh Arena of Valor content, and talking about new introductions and things that have been added to the game. There has been released a new item called the Dawning Star, which is a bow that not only gives you additional attack damage, but also some, of course, needed armor penetration, and this is true for both warrior type players or any other sorts of characters in the game, but the effect is doubled for Marksman. And therefore now I've got a Yorn video for you to showcase how good or bad the item is. We are going to find out at the end of the video. It's basically resetting Muramasa as the staple item on AD carries when you want to shred through armor, and how good or how bad the item is going to be part of this video. So I was teaming up with one of my mates here in the game, Utopia, who is playing Iggy in the upcoming video. That was a dual queue video that I'm about to show in the gameplay. And first of all, I want to show you my equipment. So it's pretty much the standard loadout on Yorn. The only difference is that we have switched Muramasa against the Dawning Star. So that gives us 50 normal attack, some attack speed, which is actually quite nice, and some crit chance that actually goes quite well with our build in the Arcana section that I'm going to show you in a couple of minutes or seconds, depending on how fast we're going through that. And as you can see, the passive is Dawning Star. Normal attacks deal an additional 50 physical damage, doubled for range heroes. That's actually quite nice, so that's 100. And the unique passive is Stab, increases armor penetration by 20%, which is doubled for range heroes. So that means that we get 40% of armor penetration. That said, when we are looking on the Arcana that I've been using, I'm using my crit assassin builds. That means we're taking 10 times atrocity for overall 16% critical chance increase. I'm using Guerrilla for movement speed and attack speed, because it just means that we're going to have crits all over the place, and I'm using Skewer for some additional armor pierce. So this is right from the start, and that's actually quite good. Enchantment wise, I'm taking the staple build that most of the AD carries are using at the moment. Despite the fact that it has been nerfed, we are still using Alchemy for some gold increase. With that comes enhanced restore as well as minion kill to be a little bit faster when it comes to clearing waves. And in the second branch, we are taking Axe of Sacrifice for some additional damage, and Blessing for some additional increased crit chance from the equipment that I have just shown you. So this is the build, and yeah, be prepared for some upcoming gameplay where Utopia and I are basically carrying the game. Let's have fun and enjoy it. Alright guys, so here we go, and first of all, don't be confused, I look a little bit different, and that is because I was already recording and there had been some interferences. Therefore I stopped the recording a couple of days ago, and I wanted to do the second part, but I just realized it's a lot better to do the whole thing again in a full recap without having to put pieces together. And therefore we are doing this with a new haircut. So here we are in a new battle. First of all, what I always like to do is taking a closer look on the team composition. As you already know, that's mostly the first part of my videos. So as you can see, I'm fighting with Grog against an Arya Valheim line here at the top duo lane. We've got Crixie at the opposing side of the mid lane, and we got Iggy, who is my mate, in the mid lane on our side. We've got Florentino at the bottom lane against Malok. Pretty interesting matchup, because both of these guys are dealing true damage, so we are going to see who is better fit for these kind of situations. The more offensive guy who has the duelist capabilities, or the tank one, who is on our side. And last but not least, in the jungle we've got Nekroth, and the enemy jungler, which we don't really see right now. Yeah, let's talk about that guy as soon as he appears. So Rating the strength of each of those team compositions, I would say we've got pretty strong characters with Iggy, Nekroth, and also Malok in our mid, jungle, and solo lane. And I would say Yorn and Grug are more sorts of the decent tier. So we're not really super strong, but we do have our moments. And what I found is that Yorn needs to get in the mid to late game to really shine if you can't pull it off in the early game. And therefore you need a strong composition in terms of a good support who knows what he or she is doing with great hooks and great support moments. And if that is working out with some ganks from the jungler or the mid laner, you can get yourself some kills and everything is going to turn out quite exciting in the early game. But most of the times you are rather going to shine in the later game stages. And that is true for this very moment or this very video, because the first couple of minutes are not going to be extraordinarily good for me. Jan is the enemy jungler, so I would say he's a strong choice right now before Teamy or Tencent or Infinite are starting to do something about him. But I would say he has good moments, but now more and more people are going to realize what they can do against him because they get a better understanding on what he is capable of doing and how he works. So yes, this is the matchup, I would say, with Arya especially, and Crixie and Jan. The opposing team does have a strong matchup as well. So Crixie is one of the top mages in the current meta. She's got a really strong damage output and she's able to dish shitloads of damage out in a couple of seconds, especially if her ult is ready. And therefore it's basically dependent on how well the team works together and how strong the individual choices are in the micro stages of the game. So I would say it all boils down to how good everything works together. So for example, my positioning was super bad at this point. We have been way too overextending here. The only fact that keeps me high up in the ranking in terms of gold is the fact that I took the alchemy enchantment and therefore I do get this little nice gold buff. But otherwise, I think I would have been falling down to 4th or 5th place here because the current score isn't really looking that good. 3 versus 7, that is not something that you want to start with. But you guys know that I always rank matches when they are over, because that is when the moment of truth actually appears. You can play really, really bad, and then it just comes down to this very last team fight that you're going to win, and the whole game is over in a couple of minutes. Or the other side is that you're playing really, really well, and then you just fuck up this one important team fight, and the enemy team is getting Darkslayer, they're closing in, and they wreck your whole game that you set up over and over again, and they just destroy you in a couple of minutes. That is the beauty of the game. The games are decided because one big team fight happens, and it's up to you if you can decide it in your favor or if the enemy team is going to win. And I think this is going to be true for this game. As you can see, Crixie is already on 3-0, Jan is 4-1. So they have been farming us pretty heavily, and I need to get some gear here in order to perform and not fall behind. So first of all, I have been granted the Claves of Sancti, or the Clav Sancti, the Paladin Sword, which is going to give me this little crit boost, and the more items we're going to get with Fafnir's and everything that you have seen in my item build is just going to make us better, and we are going to outperform armor in the later stages of the game. So things are actually looking okay-ish. So 3-11 is nothing that you need to worry about if you can turn it around, but now is the time where we really need to get our things together in order to start working on those towers of the enemy, because if we can't do that, the next moments of the game will be lost, and that's quite important. to focus on. So it's not lost, but now is the time to play a little bit more defensively, to play a little bit more cautiously. As you can see, I was immediately taking Flicker in order to escape here so that the Valheim Aya combo is not getting us, because it's really powerful. It doesn't matter who you are. That hook was actually quite questionable because Grug was hooking Aya and Valheim just straight into my face, and there will be another scene where this is going to happen, which was actually not really that great. So while I said it's time to play a little bit more defensively, we just ruined it by playing super aggressively, and that's something that we should definitely avoid at this stage of the game. 7 minutes have been already played, and the score is looking horribly. I can't put it any more mildly. We don't have any tower. We have just the middle tower. Enemies have one tower, but they have damaged our towers a little bit better, but they have the kill lead. That just means that they're going to have an easier time getting our towers, and now is the first start where we can actually be a little bit more helpful for our team. But unfortunately Yorn kicks in, and there's nothing that I can do against him. So we didn't really turn the tide of the battle. I do get a double kill here, which is actually quite nice. That came from the spell that I was just unleashing. And the good thing is that Iggy and I are still the gold leaders here, so we can still maintain at least a little bit of continuity here, which is actually quite important. But it would be really nice if Necroth could just pull off some tricks, get some kills. But I think the whole setup is a little bit lackluster for him, because he needs those team fights that he can enter in the middle of the fight in order to be helpful. He is an assassin, and he has to be played as an assassin, and if you can't pull it off because your team doesn't give you any opportunities to do so, you are actually in a really bad position. And usually he has quite an easy time to get squishy heroes on the enemy team, such as Valheim or, for example, Crixie. But if that hero has an Aya upon them, of course that's going to be actually not that suitable. So that double kill was actually quite nice. I didn't think that I would be able to pull it off, so that was actually working quite nicely. It was a shame that Aya was able to get away because Crixie just knocked me up with one of her skills. But for 5, we are actually getting a little bit of grasp to get into the game, and now I do even get the Yorn kill, despite the fact that I thought he was already been a goner. So that was actually quite beautiful. So 12-18, we are making a bit of a play to get back into the game and close the gap between the kill sprees here by just a little bit. And I was just using the enemy jungle in order to get even more gold, to get items even quicker, and just being able to be more beneficial to my team. So I tried to put some shots into the tower. It didn't really work out that well. I think that has been better in earlier stages. Like, I think it kind of changed. Usually you would be able to just use your passive in order to destroy the enemy tower without being harmed, but it just seems that now the distance has been a little bit closer, or it has been a little bit narrowed down, and that means that you need to be closer to the tower in order to unleash your passive, which brings some tower shots into your beautiful Marksman face, which is actually a little bit of a drawback, because that was one of his great passive moves, being able to get into the towers. So now we do have the new item, the new bow, that's going to give us additional attack damage, which is doubled for being a marksman, and now we do have additional armor penetration, and we're just going to see how good this is. Of course, the enemy doesn't really have a tank, so of course I think it is a little bit limited, but the good thing about it is that you still do get the attack damage buff, and that's actually common and quite handy, because 80, that's a number, or 100, that's a number that you can work with, and I think the new item is actually really good. I have been playing a Violet game just today when I was recording this video. You guys are going to see it, I think, shortly after this one, and it was a slaughterfest. Like, that game was actually going pretty well. The new item was doing what it should, just bringing pain to the enemies, and I'm not really sure if Tencent, Teamy, whoever is going to have the item unfixed, because I think it is actually really strong, and it's a really strong choice if you have already been using Muramasa and stuff like that. I don't know what happened here. That looked like a really bad encounter. Grug pulling Yarn towards himself so that Yarn was able to dash towards me. I think that was a little bit questionable, and I would advise not to drag the warrior that has been already performed really well in the enemy team in a closer distance to your marksman. That's actually quite deadly. And now the enemy has a really good setup in terms of getting the victory, because they have been already closing in on the inner tower. Now it's quite important to get Yarn. Again, Yarn has been pulled towards me with Grug's hook, so he's just using one dash, and he can just get towards me. If he was not using the dash, his second ability would still be sufficient to close the gap and just be straight in my face. And at least one good thing is that we managed to get rid of the dragon here. So Darkslayer has been removed from the game. We have been able to defend our core, but it's not looking too bright. Enemies, 4 towers, we've got 5 towers, but they have opened up the middle, so this is the shortest linkage between our core and their core, and it's just putting us in a really bad position, because now it means that we need to defend all over the place. They pretty much are now in the position that they can dictate us where they want to be. So as you can see, they're pushing here, they're pushing there, so every lane is under attack right now. And in the next couple of seconds up to minutes, our job will be to just go from one lane to the other in order to push the minions out there so that they can't get into our tower ranges, because another tower would be actually quite painful to lose. And therefore this is kind of the drawback if you are just being so defensively not winning any of those fights, because it just means that the enemy can just push the lanes into the towers, and if they succeed on doing so on multiple stages, it means most of the times that they get free objectives such as the Abyssal Dragon or the Darkslayer, which is going to apply even more pressure on your lane. So that's something that you really need to avoid. But of course, we are not in a moment where we can actually spread out and try to make plays. We need to wait for them to attack, and then we can retaliate. If possible, pick them one by one if someone is actually defending one of the lanes, and then we can strike back and try to push some of the lanes out that they haven't really taken any action on. But otherwise it's going to be a really difficult game if we can't just kill them by surprise or something like that. So we need to be really careful right now, and we can't really do anything about it because we have just put ourselves in this really bad position where we are mostly reacting, but we are not the active part. And as you can see now, everything is grouping in the mid lane, which is actually quite nice. So things are shifting from the upper side of the map into the lower side of the map. So this is going to give us an opportunity. But as you can see, they already switched back. So Yarn is now at the top lane, pushing things into the tower. And now it's our time. And I don't know how it worked, but we spotted that they were about to get the Dark Slayer. So Dark Slayer Lord has been cleansed out. So that was really, 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 really helpful. I do get some kills here. Unfortunately, Necroth has been killed. So this would have been really nice to have Necroth at the end of the fight in order to try to catch Yorn here. Not because he would be able to kill him, but he was just being able to kind of limit his actions. And so now it's my and Iggy's duty to get a good clearance on the minions. So now it's important to be really quick, get into the tower, get into the core, and end this game by this fight. So Yorn is making an entrance again. We are able to shut him down, so that was really well played from Iggy. I do get another kill here, and now it's just one tower between us. So now it's the core between us. I'm really, really low, but I know that I need to put everything into it in order to make this game work for us. So here we go, another kill for me. I healed up a little bit, and now it's just a question of time because we just need to put our shots into the core. We managed to do so, and I think that was a beautiful comeback while the whole game was actually quite rough. But we made it work, and I think that is the most important thing, to actually get your things together, focus on the outcome, don't look back. Yes, the game wasn't looking so great, but as you can see, 8-8, 10 on Iggy, and we were both the heroes who carried the game with the same fight participation, with basically 2/3 of the overall team fight damage. And I think that is a nice outcome. So I think the new item is actually quite good. You guys are going to see the Violet game to kind of prove this theory. And that was my battle for today. I hope you guys liked it. Leave a subscription if you dare. And see you soon. Stay healthy and bye-bye.